Yes,
Oh, that's
nice.
interesting. That's a brand new concept to me. Like, as we went up in the scale, that any time that I'm adding a lot of power to fill in, that's not a that's not like a component of hitting that note. That's just a separate and distinct concept.
If you can grasp today's lesson, this will fundamentally change the way you approach singing, especially singing higher. And it's as simple as this. At any point you're hitting a note, there are two distinct feelings. The feeling of actually getting to the note and the feeling of adding power, adding the quality that you want. And the more you can distinguish between these two feelings, the easier time you'll have navigating up and down your range. Now, to help you understand this, I've got an actual lesson with one of my students, and I'll show you the general process of how we start to distinguish between these two feelings. Now, keep in mind, this is a general process and it doesn't substitute for working with a private teacher or having someone who's able to tailor things to your voice a bit more. Now, real quick, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ivan. I'm a voice teacher who works with students from all around the world over Zoom. And really on this channel, my goal is to make learning how to sing as simple and as easy as possible. So if that is up your lane, consider subscribing. If you're interested in working with me privately one-on-one, or you just want a step-by-step program, links down in the description below. Anyway, let's dive into step one. Let's explain why the feeling of getting to the note, changing pitch, is actually different to the feeling of adding power and quality to the note, aka the fundamentals. What we're trying to really train when we are working through these exercises is 2 to 3 things. The first one here is, of course, we've got to blow air. Like if we don't blow air, there's just no sound. But beyond that, right, it's really learning to control a lot of the finer muscles in the voice. And namely, number one, how does it feel like to actually change pitch or stretch the vocal folds?
Hmm.
Because basically how we change pitch, right, there is a certain feeling there that is the vocal folds stretching. Because almost imagine like a rubber band, when you stretch it and then you flick it, it kind of creates a higher pitch. So that's the first one. Now, the second part of it is how well the chords come together. And that determines more like the breathiness or the strength. So if I go, ma, 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 I'm on the same pitch, right? But then I add connection. That's the other part of it. Okay, so understanding it logically, understanding the concepts is just part of the puzzle. What's more important is to be able to actually execute it and to feel it. To help with this, in step 2, we focus on getting my student to go up and down his range softly. Since we can't add power, this really starts to isolate that feeling of pitch change for him. Our exercise right now is to try to focus on isolating the feeling of pitch change, or this particular emotion. Now, because we can't see it, right? I can't like look down your neck and be like, hey, are those vocal folds stretching? That's why we're gonna have to rely on you just observing. Like, is there a certain feeling? Is there a certain kind of sensation that you personally notice? Because that's the feeling we're gonna be like, oh, so if I just want to change pitch, I just kind of learn to observe that feeling. Eventually, you don't think about it again, but the goal of it is just to make it a bit clearer for you. So now as we come down, just still keep it quiet, right? But I want you to notice, well, how am I changing pitch? Is there a certain sensation? Now, personally, like for me or like other people, they just feel this kind of shift of the resonance, like kind of up and forward. Like that's usually the sensation, but everyone might kind of feel it a bit differently, or initially they might feel it a certain way, and then eventually things change. Like they just get more refined. So, yep, yep, yep. Anything you've noticed so far, Matt?
So you might have to help me out with more of what to look for, but the only sensation I can kind of point to is when I'm changing, I feel it almost in kind of in the constriction of my throat. I don't know if this is obvious or not, but when I change and go, I just feel like my throat kind of open up and relax a little bit when going
Mm,
lower.
mm-hmm,
Um, in terms of you were talking about resonance, um, I feel like I might need more help on that
mm,
concept because the only thing I can really sense is when I hit it well. And obviously, you get that feeling almost like when you're playing a guitar or something and you're tuning by ear and you can hear sort of the resonance. It's like that feeling, but in my head. But other than those two concepts, I'm not quite sure what to look for.
Now, as you can see here, my student is still feeling a bit confused. He's not quite sure what he's looking out for. And I wanted to include this moment in this video today because I wanted to normalize that this is part of the process. Because we can't see the voice easily, we often have to rely on these sensations, these imageries in order to get us to execute the right thing. All I suggest here is please stay patient and just keep having a guess, what could this feeling of pitch change be? And what could this feeling of adding power be as well? Even if you feel stuck, that is okay. You don't have to figure this out on your own. As I said before, you can book in a lesson with me and we can figure this out together. Now, in this next part of the lesson, to help my student break through, I shifted our attention to somewhere he was already good at. In this example, he was actually pretty good at hitting the top note by itself in a light falsetto. And so you'll see me tailor it specifically to his strength. You're really good at just hitting the note straight on. Just start to notice as it goes up and gets a bit headier, where is that place? Because that's the target, that's kind of giving you the target. Yes. Perfect. Something's clicking here.
Not quite.
Yep, I'll take that.
I feel like that puts me.
Go there. No, that's right. Go there. Yep.
Wait, can you do that one again? Sorry.
Yeah, it's still correct. It's just a bit kind of clumsy.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like notice how it still gets to that place that it needs to go to on the top note. So something for me personally as a coach felt like a click just now. Anything that you observed, or was like it's a bit kind of vague.
I feel like sometimes that feeling of you go to sing whatever, some Lady Gaga song, and it's that really high note, and you start to kind of squeak a little bit, and because you're just all in like the head, kind of,
Yep.
and you like can't get there. Um, that it's approaching that feeling with some of these higher notes that don't trigger the falsetto register.
Okay, great. So we're starting to get into that bit of a breakthrough, and you can see he's starting to sense something, or at least differentiate it from the feeling of adding power. Now, to really drive things home, I introduced that feeling of adding power once again, just to prove to him that these two things are different. And this is where the real breakthrough happens. Now, what we're going to do, this kind of might make it a bit easier.
Yeah, this is helpful.
So once we get to the top note, let's kind of add a bit more pressure. So then that shows you, okay, well, if I'm already at the note, then I add the second piece of the puzzle. Slow it down. This detail will start to show you that, these are two separate things, getting to the note and getting power. Yes, that was a great example. Yep. Nice. Yes. Oh, that was a very juicy one. You felt that, eh?
Yeah, yeah. And that's when you were talking earlier about, I don't know if that's the same term, if I'm using it the same way, but like a resonance. Yeah, juicy. It's like that moment when it actually kind of connects or whatever. I definitely can feel that in my head. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes it's tricky to observe the stretch in that softer volume because there's not much going on. But if you're really paying attention, you'll notice it does get to a certain place, and then I just add pressure to it, like what you've done here. It's great.
And when you say the stretch, Ivan, you mean the like you were showing me the stretch, but moving between the notes, like stretching out the vocal folds.
Yeah, yeah. So when I use the term stretch, sometimes you don't, some people do, some people don't. Like they feel it as a literal kind of stretching of the vocal folds. But I'm kind of referring here that this is the pitch changing feeling,
Got it.
as opposed to the feeling of adding power. So it's always going to come back to those two things, and anatomically, it's like you literally see the vocal folds stretch. Right, that's how you change pitch. Then there's another video which I forgot to share with you that you bring the chords together. Like that's another kind of feeling. But let's like the momentum here is really good. So keep it up, and I just want you to keep noticing. Oh, there's one thing I have to do to get to the pitch. Then I add pressure. Just I'm constantly just doing these two things.
Mama, mama.
Yep.
Mama, mama.
Close. When you added pressure, didn't quite stay in that same place. It kind of dropped off a bit.
Mama, mama. That
Yes,
was a
good.
lot of pressure.
A lot
Yeah.
of pressure, but it's good. So it even
Yeah.
shows you that you can add quite a bit of pressure, even if you're in that right place. Nice.
Mama, mama. Pressure's harder as I get higher. Yeah.
It's okay. Try it again.
Mama, mama.
Yes.
Mama, mama.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Nice.
interesting. That's interesting. I've never thought about that. Because I felt like I was almost entering close to kind of the falsetto area, but I was still able to add pressure and hit
Yes.
that note. So like falsetto, yeah, that's helpful because the difference between power and the stretch, um, the yeah, like I don't falsetto doesn't have to be airy and quiet or whatever, I guess.
Well, yes, but it's also like what made it falsetto before was the chords were stretched to get to the note. They just weren't pressing very hard. So I think this is why people get very confused. They're like, oh, as I go up higher, I have to go to falsetto. No, that's not what's happening there. It's just you're stretching, right? You're still trying to get to the pitch, but some people lack the coordination to add pressure. So falsetto is not necessarily a higher register. It's just not connected. The chords aren't coming together. But here
Got it.
you've proven to yourself that, oh, I can get to this note and I can still connect in. They're just two very fundamentally different mechanisms.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for explaining it that way. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, nice. Let's keep going. See how far we can go.
Mama, mama.
Yep.
Mama, mama.
Yes.
Mama, mama.
That's okay. Try it one more time. It'll be like the same. It's the same problem really that we're fixing.
Mama, mama.
Close, 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 close. We'll come down. We're already fairly high, so we'll give it time for it to kind of develop. There were some really good kind of reps over this past exercise. Anything that you noticed? It seems like there was a few kind of light bulb moments here for you.
Yeah, definitely. No, this distinguishment between power and moving the note, yeah, in my head, it's always just been all wrapped together. There was no method to the madness at the least before. So now understanding hitting high notes, that's a brand new concept to me. Like, as we went up in the scale, that any time that I'm adding a lot of power to fill in, that's not a that's not like a component of hitting that note. That's just a separate and distinct concept. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it did feel different in that sense. Yeah.
Anyway, that is a wrap. Hopefully this behind the scenes was useful. If it was, just let me know in the comments if you want to see more of this. Please share and subscribe wherever you're joining me from. This really, really means the world to me. If you're on the podcast, leaving a 5-star review really helps this podcast grow. Apart from that, my name is Ivan. I'm your voice teacher. If you're looking for private lessons, links down in the description. I will see you next Friday. Take care.